If you like to listen to stories, welcome to the Benjamin Lewis channel. Let's get started. When I was in a daze, I called my parents, wanting them to collect my body. I heard the false heiress crying and wailing on the other end of the phone. Mom scolded me harshly. How did I end up with such a shameless creature? Dyeing your head green to flirt with an old man? Who taught you that? If you interfere with your sister's marriage, you will not have a good end. Father also chimed in beside him. Come back to me. I want to break off relations with you. The mobile phone slipped from my hand, and I fell heavily to the ground. I was originally an atheist. Now I see my spirit floating in the air. Even if I don't believe it, I can't help it. I saw my body lying on the ground, with a cake laced with pills overturned next to it. The fallen phone is still ringing. Mom yelled angrily. You shameless thing. I really regret helping you come back at that time. Your life went to hell from the day you were abducted. How dare you try to harm my sister? Why don't you just die? As she wished, I am now dead. I tried to reach out and touch the phone, but I didn't expect to be able to touch it. Picked it up and pressed the phone off. It's noisy. Today is my birthday. Unfortunately, no one remembers. I specially ordered a birthday cake with lots of cream from the cake shop. Take the sleeping pills this way. Your life in the next life will definitely be sweet and wonderful. Don't let others take away your parents. Don't be a real spoiled brat. You don't need to be questioned about your qualifications or be the subject of endless rumors. I mixed the pills and cake together, bite after bite. Very sweet. Just now, seeing the tear marks on my face, you know that I cried before my death. I didn't originally want to cry. Crying will affect my fortune in the next life. Who knows? I should not have called my parents. They clearly heard my sobs, but kept cursing nonstop. I'm browsing my phone and opening a social media platform. Seeing those 999 comments and private messages, you don't even need to click on it to know. All are foul-mouthed and sickening rumors from strangers online. I finally managed to get into graduate school. Celebrate it. I intentionally dyed my hair a pale minty-toned color. Bid farewell to the gloomy and hopeless postgraduate entrance examination life and the past. I'll go to the nursing home to volunteer just like I do every day and show my report card to the familiar grandpa. This scene was just captured by a classmate. I like it quite a bit. Upload the photos to the social media platform that evening. I didn't expect to receive hundreds of comments and private messages the next day. One of the netizens, who is called Thief of Life, scolded very energetically. Nowadays, even those with green hair can become graduate students. Whose respectable daughter has dyed her hair green? I know this woman. 100 per night. Very cheap. May-December romance. That's really crossing the line. I turned over one page after another. My appearance and graduate student status are not inconsistent. I must be a special industry, and my relationship with my grandfather is inappropriate. I fought back. Do not have stereotypes about graduate students. I'm just a volunteer at a nursing home. You're too vulgar. Rumors, once started, are hard to stop. Even if I deleted the photo myself. There are still quite a few netizens who have reposted my photos on various platforms. They dug out my phone number again. Deadly chain. Various harassment text messages. What's the news about green hair sister graduating from high school? What's the price per night? It is unbearable. Seeing the negative comments from netizens. I don't know when it started, but I have been unable to sleep for entire nights, and my mental state is extremely poor. The doctor shook his head and said I have a terminal illness and only have 1 month left. I chuckled bitterly at the hospital entrance, then burst into tears. The appearance was too miserable, which drew the attention of passers-by. I was thinking at that time, why is my life so bitter? No matter what you do, you will be questioned. Even when I made a table of delicious dishes for my own parents, they still questioned whether I had ordered takeout. They said in a cold manner, we don't like children who lie. I can only say through tears, yes, it wasn't me who did it. I want to say goodbye to the past. I want to prove myself. After much effort, I have been admitted to graduate school, and a new chapter of my life is just around the corner. All efforts were extinguished simply because of the color of the hair. What to do? I can't bear such hard days any longer, so I prepared a special birthday gift for myself. That is death. I sent my parents one last message, I'm dead. Remember to come collect my body. Then he turned off the phone and placed it back on the table. I can't wait to see my parents' reaction to this message. So I drifted out of the house and soon arrived at my parents' home. This was originally my home. I've been away for too long, so it feels a bit unfamiliar. I still remember the events of that year vividly. Our family of 4 went on a trip to the coastal city. I'm just a tag-along. Dad and Mom, Take my older sister Yolanda Su with you. She is good at coaxing. But I'm still very excited. After all, my parents rarely give me a good face. Once we got there, Yolanda Su invited me to go swimming at the beach. I foolishly agreed. She grabbed my hand and staged a scene where I was pressing her head underwater. She was thrashing about in the sea, and I was standing there at a loss for what to do. After her father rushed over and rescued her, she broke down crying, shouting, "Sister, what have I done wrong that you want to kill me?" My parents glared at me. In their rage, they forgot that Yolanda Su could swim. Your mother slapped me and said, "Get out. Get out of here." I was unable to prove myself and was thus driven out of this home. For years have passed, and he has never come back. I saw Mom and Dad gently comforting the crying fake heiress Yolanda Su. "Yolanda Su, don't cry. Your parents will decide for you." Yolanda Su was sobbing and crying bitterly, like a flower in the rain. "Why did your sister do this?" "Because of this, I had a fight with Yufeng." Yufeng's parents think it's embarrassing. "Father, mother, was sister doing it on purpose? Does she really not like me?" This talk wouldn't be bad, but once I said it, it stirred up the fiery temper of my angry mother again. "She is a shameless and vulgar scoundrel. He used to be a petty thief, but now he sells his body. How could we, the Su family, have such a daughter?" My father, who is usually taciturn, couldn't help but spit forcefully on the ground. "I really wish I could cut her off with a knife and be done with it, so she won't be an eyesore in this world." I quietly drifted to the other side of the sofa, and upon hearing this conversation, my heart ached painfully. "Thief, Yolanda Su secretly put her belongings in my room. Then did you grab my hand and report to my parents that I am a thief?" Such a clumsy technique. Only my biased parents believed it. The most serious one. It was Yolanda Su who put the class funds in my backpack. In front of my parents, the class teacher, and my classmates, I trembled as I took out the class fund. No one believes me no matter how I explain it. Everyone is looking at me with your eyes. While my parents were furiously beating me with a feather duster, I saw Yolanda Su snickering in the shadows. My mother's phone rang, pulling me back from my wandering thoughts. It was the message I sent. She and her father looked for a long time, and were silent for a long time. My heart is pounding. Will my parents cry for me? The next second, their faces turned gloomy. Dad immediately called me, but couldn't get through. In a fit of anger, I opened the WeChat voice message and sent several in quick succession. "Jane Su, where are you? Get back here. We cannot accept you, this shameless thing. You're trying to scare us with death, aren't you? I'll tell you. We will not retrieve your body even if you die." My body plunged into an icy abyss. I felt like a fool for a moment. How could they be sad and distressed because of my death? Jane Su, a 7-year-old, passed away. The parents would be devastated, wishing they could go with her. Jane Su, aged 22, died. My parents only know how to beat gongs and drums, and they wish to hold a banquet to celebrate. The reason is nothing else. They had another daughter, Yolanda Su. During the 7 years I was kidnapped, she completely replaced my position. So during the time I was away, my parents were unwilling to share their love with me. With the help of Yolanda Su, I became the ignorant, shameless, and dirty-mannered child. Your parents shouted at me and pointed at my nose. If I knew that the daughter I ran and worked so hard to find from all over the country was of this character, we're not coming back. You should just rot in that big mountain for the rest of your life. But I really want to say it. Father and mother, it was you who lost me in the first place. Why must I bear the consequences of your mistakes? I finally managed to convince Yolanda Su. My parents happily prepared the dinner, putting aside the words I had said. The doorbell rang. Dad opened the door, but was knocked down by a group of strangers holding cell phones. They swarmed in, taking photos with their phones left and right. The flash of the flash is flashing. It reminded me of the days when I was cyberbullied. I shuddered and immediately crouched next to the cabinet, covering my head. Mom and Yolanda Su were also shocked to see the scene and stood still, dumbfounded. Dad slowly stood up and angrily shouted, "Who are you? What are you doing coming to someone else's home for no reason?" A mobile phone was shoved into my face, and the person asked, "Does Jane Su live here?" All netizens across the country want to see the real person. Are you her parents? Call her out. When Mom heard this, she frowned. This is no Jane Su. Get out of here, all of you, or I'll call the police. Those anchors still won't rest. Oh dear, Jane Su has become famous. Maybe with our push, her fake graduate student business could do even better. Ha 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 ha. They burst into a malicious laughter, and my parents were furious. Yolanda Sue stood by the side and spoke timidly. My sister made a mistake. Go talk to her. Leave us alone. Yolanda Sue's words sealed my fate. Those anchors truly became more convinced that I was just a prostitute. The audience in the live stream is growing larger, and their comments are becoming more and more disgusting and unpleasant. Is this confirmed? What a bargain. The notification slip that was revealed is also fake. Is it not against the law? Haha, look at his family's reaction. This event is definitely real. I watched the increasingly reckless remarks of those anchors, huddled in the corner trembling. Why? Why are you treating me this way? I clearly did nothing. Why do I have to be scolded and rumored? After hearing these words, the parents' faces became even more gloomy. My father said sternly, "We have long since severed ties with Jane Sue. She has no relationship with our family at all now." This statement struck my heart mercilessly, leaving me in unbearable pain and unable to breathe. If you don't go out now, don't blame me for being impolite. That's it. He took a kitchen knife from the kitchen, pointed it at the group of anchors, and looked angry. Those people rushed out one after another, fearing that if they walked too slowly, their father would catch up with them. The door has been closed, and the home has returned to silence. My parents' faces were pale and grim, no longer joyful as before. Yolanda Sue helped them sit on the sofa and then busied herself in the kitchen with particular diligence. Her cooking skills are not good, and the few dishes she made look dark and gloomy. Dad and Mom, my cooking skills are not good. Please don't mind it. My parents' gloomy expressions cleared, and they wore joyful smiles on their faces. Yolanda Sue, whatever you do, your parents love it. We, the three of us in the family, need to be well from now on. I crouched in the corner, peeking at their happiness, and a sense of bitterness welled up in my heart. That dining table only had 3 seats, and I always felt out of place. The room that originally belonged to me has long been taken over by Yolanda Sue. I only have the small bed in the corner of the living room, that tiny space. It's gone now. He passed away 4 years ago. I have no trace of ever having existed in this home. You're the older sister, so you should make some allowances for your younger sister. I am only about a month older than Yolanda Sue. I am obedient and thoughtful. I do not fight or scramble, but I cannot get back my parents' love for me. This has also led to a sense of unfamiliarity and unease upon my return to this home, which I have yet to overcome. The days go by quickly, and I stay in this house every day. Look at this happy family of 3 enjoying their cozy daily life. Yolanda Sue is a pampered little princess. At this age, still able to lie in parents' embrace and eat fruit. You can say sweetly and gently what you want to learn. Her parents could only pat her head and agree one by one. And when have I ever experienced this family love? I learned to observe expressions and read situations very early on. I have worked hard for my own life early on. Forgetting herself early is the true daughter of this family. Sometimes I also float up into the sky, observing the various aspects of human life. The young parents are cooing to the newborn baby. They spoke softly and had happy smiles on their faces. I sometimes think, were my parents like this when I was born? Overjoyed at the arrival of a new life. I wish I could go back to when I was just born. Otherwise, I would definitely be moved to tears by that hard-won love. The landlady called my parents half a month after I had died. They are trying on wedding dresses at the bridal shop with Yolanda Sue. Upon seeing the unfamiliar phone call, Mother stepped aside and answered it. The landlord's anxious voice came from there. "Excuse me, are you a family member of Jane Sue?" Her mother frowned and said in a serious tone, "I don't know her." Did I dial the wrong number? The emergency contact person she left for me is you. I smelled a dead rat in her room, and when I called her, I couldn't get through, so I thought I'd call you. I saw that my mother's face looked very ugly. Who knows where she went and what she was up to. She obviously couldn't show her face around here anymore, so she left early. I advise you to pry open the door lock and take a look. Maybe she has made a mess of your house. And don't call me again. I have no relationship with Jane Sue. The landlady wanted to say more, but the phone was hung up. Yolanda Sue walked out in her wedding dress. Her mother's stern expression changed, and she looked at her daughter with a smile on her face. "My darling, it's so beautiful." The father was also standing nearby, watching with tears in his eyes, with a sense of pride and joy as his daughter was growing up. Their warmth stung my eyes, and I quickly drifted away. Return to the rented house. The landlady was standing at my door with a troubled expression. I don't have many friends, and there are only a few contacts in my address book. I keep in close contact with the landlord. She often sends me some homegrown vegetables. That's how a stranger would always pat my head and say, "You're such a well-behaved and lovely little girl." I showed her my graduate school transcript, and she was happy for me, saying I was doing well and was a good kid. That's right. I have never said it out loud in front of my own parents. They only praise Yolanda Sue. They do not see me in their eyes. The landlord was holding a few fresh vegetables in his hands, apparently to give them to me. In the scorching 35-degree weather, my body has already started to decay in the room. I'm really sorry, Auntie, for being such an inconsiderate tenant, but I really have nowhere to go. This is the only place that makes me feel the warmth of home. The storm I caused online did not ultimately affect Yolanda Sue's marriage. Today is her and Yufeng's wedding day. Early in the morning, my parents were busy at the hotel, welcoming the coming and going guests. Mother looked at the beautiful and exquisite Yolanda Sue in the dressing room mirror. Your eyes are reddened, my dear child. Seeing you get married makes your mother very happy. That year, when we brought you back from the orphanage, your shy and timid demeanor was truly heartbreaking. Now you've blossomed into such a graceful and elegant young woman, and it's time for you to embark on a new stage of life. That's wonderful. I sat next to Yolanda Sue on the makeup chair, looking at the illusory self in the mirror. Start imagining. I wore a pristine white wedding dress with a sophisticated and elegant makeup. My parents stood behind me, their hands on my shoulders, speaking softly and gently. Jane Sue, getting you back is the most successful thing your parents have ever done in their lifetime. That year we went to the mountains to find you, saw you timidly hiding at the door, watching us, with bruises all over your body. Dad and Mom's hearts were truly in pain, unable to imagine what you had been through all these years. Thank goodness, I'm glad I found you back. You won't have to suffer anymore. Darling daughter, your father and mother will take good care of you. These words were said to 14-year-old Jane Sue, but they broke their promise. I immediately returned to reality, and tears had already wet my face. The dressing room was empty in an instant. The ritual has begun. I wiped my tears and drifted to the wedding venue. Yolanda held her father's arm and prepared to walk towards Yufeng on the opposite side of the stage. Father walked solemnly yet reluctantly, his eyes reddened. Mother is filming a video below the stage, recording this unforgettable moment. Is that so? Yes, that's it. A clamorous sound came, again a group of anchors with their mobile phones. They stepped onto the stage where the ritual was taking place, snapping pictures without any regard. Who are you? What's the matter? Dad shielded Yolanda Sue behind him and reprimanded angrily. You're Jane Sue's family. Did you know she passed away? The host held up a phone and asked in a tone devoid of any compassion for the deceased. I heard the last sentence, my heart tightened. How did these people know? What are you talking nonsense about? Don't say such inauspicious things at my daughter's wedding. Dad furrowed his brow and did not believe this sentence. Yolanda Sue, who was already in tears, was comforted by the hand. Mother also came to her side. Dad, Mom, does my sister really hate me so much? Someone tried to cause trouble at my wedding. Does she not want me to be happy? Mother gave a stern look and scolded. She is just so adorable. Belly full of bad water. Doesn't she just want us to go see her? That's completely absurd. I laughed self-deprecatingly. I'm doomed. I'll even become the bad guy who ruins my sister's wedding even after I'm dead. My parents must hate me. You didn't know she died? The host continued to ask, gloating. She just couldn't face living anymore. Even her own parents didn't want to acknowledge her. Haha. Those people burst into loud laughter, which was very jarring. The police are here. Run! A host in the crowd shouted. In the next second, a large group of police rushed in and arrested all the anchors. One of the tall, thin policemen approached my parents and said in a serious tone, "Are you Jane Sue's family?" Today a group of radical netizens broke into the house she was renting and found her dead inside. On the table, there is a cake with maggots and pills. Preliminary suspicion, it was a drug suicide. He paused for a moment, looked at the three people in front of him who were dressed in luxurious clothes, and then said, "Sorry, I ruined this wedding. You need to go to the scene to collect the deceased's belongings." The parents' legs went weak, and they collapsed to the ground, mumbling under their breath. Impossible, impossible. That distracted look, That couple who had just found me and were hugging me, crying bitterly, just like back then. Yolanda Su dared not speak at this moment. Her face turned pale all of a sudden. Even Yufeng couldn't help but ask her what was wrong. She paused for a moment, squeezing out 2 tears. Yufeng, my sister has died. What do I do? She grabbed her mother's hand again. Mom, why did my sister commit suicide? Woo-woo. This time, Mom didn't reason with her, didn't comfort her out loud. She grabbed her father's hand and said in a trembling voice, Let's go quickly. They finally realized I had died and they want to come see me. In fact, they are just tough on the outside, but soft-hearted. I smiled and suddenly felt that my spiritual body had become a little transparent. Am I about to leave soon? I silently floated back to the rented house and looked at my own body. Hideous. In just half a month, it has rotted to this extent. The maggots are mercilessly gnawing at my body. The delicious cake has long since gone moldy, no longer possessing its former sweetness. I returned to my own body and waited for my parents to arrive. Click. The door opened, and they came. The smell of this house is not pleasant. Even the police can't help but cover their noses. Yolanda Su and Yufeng were too afraid to even go inside, and were vomiting at the doorway. Only Dad and Mom seemed to have lost their sense of smell. Father walked into the house with heavy steps, as if each step carried 1,000 pounds of weight. His gaze was filled with grief and disbelief as he slowly approached me. Her legs weakened, and she knelt on the ground, her lips trembling as she let out a sob. Her mother trembled as she reached out and gently stroked my face. He gently stroked my hair, as if I were just sleeping, afraid of hurting me. Her tears flowed unstoppably, dripping onto me, as she murmured, My child. My child. I closed my eyes and carefully felt the tears, warmth, and tender caresses from my parents, which I had not experienced for a long time. That year I returned. I was fortunate to experience it. Afterwards, my parents no longer loved me. I heard Mom's hoarse voice calling my name, Jane Su. Wake up, open your eyes, and look at Mom. I find myself to be dirty and smelly. They bent down and kissed my still intact forehead. Seeing the scene, Yolanda Su felt even more disgusted. She put on a mask and pretended to kneel by my lifeless body, crying with snot running down her face. Sister, how could you have left like this? My heart is in so much pain. But her performance did not last long. The police interrupted her. My deepest condolences. We need to determine the time of death on our end. The preliminary assessment is that it occurred in the afternoon of August 9th. We checked her phone, and at 3 o'clock she called you 2 elders, and later at 3 minutes she sent a message. Excuse me, gentlemen, why did you not rush to the scene immediately after receiving the call and message? Father heard this, paused for a moment, and looked up at Mother, his face full of anguish. August 9th is Jane Su's birthday. She was calling for help, and yet we still curse her for not having face. Mom must have thought of something, and she immediately took out her phone and searched through it for quite a while. I just came across the message that helped me arrange the burial. The next moment, she couldn't help but pound her chest heavily and cry out loud. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. If it had been detected early, Jane Su would not have died. I wish I could rush up and hug her, telling her not to be so hard on herself. I reached out my hand, but it could only pass through her body. I will never be able to hug my mom and dad again. The landlady appeared at the door. She has red eyes, knocked on the door. May I come in? She did not take the mask that the police offered, but slowly walked up to her parents. At the sight of my lifeless body, my throat felt obstructed, and I was momentarily speechless. After a while, she took out a document from her bag. This is Jane Su's admission letter and hospital diagnosis certificate. The courier could not reach her, so everything has been delivered to me. She was all alone when she first moved in, but whenever she saw me, she always greeted me with a cheerful smile. She's a very obedient and kind girl. She is always alone on the days when everyone is reunited. I asked her why she didn't go home, and she said she didn't have a home. Until today, I didn't know she had a father and mother. It's been 4 years, and you haven't come to visit her even once. Why so heartless? He ruthlessly allowed her to suffer outside. He ruthlessly let her die for half a month without anyone finding out. Hearing the last sentence, Dad and Mom's bodies trembled, and they did not dare to look up to face the landlady's reproachful gaze. Have a good look for yourselves. She threw the documents at them and left. Mother shakingly picked it up, and on it was written, "Admission notice for graduate students at Tsinghua University and Peking University. Pancreatic cancer in late stage. Severe depression." She trembled, and the documents scattered all over my body. The tears fell one by one as I collapsed onto my father, crying uncontrollably. I'm sorry, my Jane-Soo. Dad and Mom were really wrong, woo-woo. Yes, during the 7 years I was kidnapped and tortured by my adoptive parents. During the 8 years when I was hated by my biological parents, I have fallen seriously ill. Even if I was not diagnosed with a terminal illness, I was tormented by depression to the point where I was no longer human. The hair is falling out in clumps, and the body is involuntarily in pain. I can only comfort myself by thinking about the warmth of my parents when they just found me. I began to heal. I will go to see the mountains and the sea. My heavy academic workload keeps me from overthinking. I have successfully completed the translation of the given source text to English. I finally managed to get into graduate school. I thought my life was going to start going in a good direction, but just because of a group photo, I was pushed into the abyss by my own closest people, along with a group of strangers. I can't save myself anymore. On the other side, those live broadcasts have already spread across the entire network. Those strangers on the internet are all cursing me, saying I'm not worthy to live. The whole internet knows about it. How can she ever show her face again? Serves them right. Disgusting. Even after death, he still ruined his own sister's wedding. Everybody gloats over my misfortune, but not a single person stands up for me. Finally, a comment from a netizen attracted everyone's attention. Those who remain silent are thought to be discerning, but they never imagined the situation would escalate this way. I am a classmate of Jane-Soo. I dare not speak rashly about the deceased. Everything I say is the truth. She is an outstanding graduate nationwide and was admitted to a graduate program at Tsinghua or Peking University this year. She posted a picture of herself volunteering at a senior home. She posted photos of me participating in various competitions and activities in college, including the large group photo at the elderly care home. I and the volunteers were squatting in the front row with smiles on our faces. I was really happy back then. Her comments prompted many silent onlookers to speak up. They have posted photos of their own hair, in addition to various outstanding and impressive academic qualifications and experiences. When did the color of one's hair become a standard for judging the nobility or vulgarity of a person? They also went to the nursing home to interview the grandpa in the photo. In the video, Grandpa was praising me. Jane-Soo comes to visit me every year, and she is a very, very good child. Overnight, the online public opinion has reversed. Everyone is feeling sorry for me. Unfortunately, it's too late. It came too late, along with the regret of my parents. My parents are gradually packing up my belongings. That Polaroid on the wall is my record of working and traveling at the same time. My father looked at me, my face smiling like a flower, and could not help but shed tears. Jane-Soo, how much hardship you have endured. And my mother found the diary I had left on the desk. Every stroke and line on the page is a record of my journey over the years. Jane-Soo, 14 years old. I have written on the first page of the diary, my parents have found me, and I finally have someone who cares for me. Jane-Soo, 22 years old. I wrote on the last page of the diary that I bought myself a cake. I don't need anyone to care for me. Mother silently turned the pages, reading through my 8 years of suffering. I am not a thief. The money is not mine. The food is truly what I made, but unfortunately no one believes me. I did not hit Yolanda Sue. Why is she covering her face and saying that I hit her? Apparently, the lack of trust and favoritism is what my parents meant by taking good care of me. I have left this home. I no longer need my father and mother. I was so carefree in my diary, but before I died, I still remembered them. I am all talk and no action. Yolanda Sue approached her mother and said softly, "Mother, my sister has depression. Her diary will certainly be written with great drama, and she wants to make you regret. You should relax and not take it too seriously, so as not to harm your body. My sister is too vulnerable. She committed suicide after being cyberbullied by netizens." Pop. Yolanda held her burning face. looking at her mother in disbelief, seeing that usually soft-spoken and gentle mother. "Mother, why are you hitting me?" She broke down and cried out. Mother scolded through gritted teeth. "Your sister is dead, and you are still fanning the flames. I've been spoiling you too much, which is why I didn't notice how you were bullying your sister. You, get out of here. Get out of here. Your sister doesn't want to see you." I watched Yolanda Sue run out of the door crying. Although I have fantasized about this scene many times, but it really happened, yet there was not a trace of satisfaction in my heart. After all, Yolanda Sue's provocation, her parents were not blind to it. They don't love me. Their hearts have long been inclined towards her, so how could they be concerned about me at all? This incident has had a huge social impact. The police are investigating the rumor spreader. The current event has a new twist. You two elders may want to take a look. The police shared the latest internet activities with my parents. They looked on with tears streaming down their faces, muttering to themselves, "How can we not trust our daughter? How can we listen to those rumors and hurt our own daughters? No, we need to clarify for Jane Sue. Let her walk out clean and pure." My parents immediately entrusted the police to conduct a live broadcast in my rental apartment. The two people in the live broadcast had vacant, lifeless eyes and looked very pitiful. They recounted my experiences, poring over my diary, capture every nook and cranny of my room, leaving no trace unrecorded. I am showing it to netizens, but I am also stabbing my own heart. My life, ordinary. A few words can describe it. Kidnapped at the age of 7, found in the mountains at the age of 14. At the age of 22, he was admitted to graduate school, but was diagnosed with a terminal illness. The depression that was painstakingly cured has relapsed due to rumors. The cake recipe finally resolved itself. Many viewers in the live streaming room sent flowers. I don't know who it was, but they suddenly said, "The young lady must be going through a lot of hardship in life to need to take medication with cake." In an instant, this sentence was scrolled and flashed all over the screen. The word struck the parents' hearts like a heavy hammer. Their eyes reddened instantly, their lips trembling. "It was our mistake. We did not take good care of her and let her suffer so much. My parents took my body to the funeral home. Please hire the best mortician to help me restore my appearance. It doesn't matter how much money, especially for her hair." They used the beautiful selfie I had just dyed my hair for as a memorial photo. "Jane Sue, we must be beautiful. Do all of this." The police called before I had a chance to rest. "The police have already arrested the person. Please come to the police station. We have arrested a few ringleaders among the online troublemakers." He hesitated to speak. "Let them go to the police station and discuss it further." My brow is restless. I feel that things are not as simple as they seem. I rushed to the police station ahead of time. Indeed, Yolanda Sue. She is the most venomous life thief. I chuckled coldly when I saw this name. He has a sense of self-awareness, and he actually knows that he stole my life. She hates me so much. I have already distanced myself from her and my parents' lives. It still doesn't let me go, endlessly prying into me and hurting me. Be the first one to take the lead and stir up trouble. Your parents also realized that the police officer's words had a hidden meaning. Ran stumbling and faltering into the police station, saw Yolanda Sue sitting in the interrogation room at that moment. The person looked as if they had been struck by lightning, with a face full of shock and disbelief. Dad opened his eyes wide, his lips trembling, and yelled angrily, "Yolanda Sue, how could it be you? How could you do this?" Mother stood there motionless, tears welling up in her eyes, her voice trembling as she said, "How could you do this to your sister?" A young police officer approached them and took them to a quiet place. The offender Yolanda Sue's crimes are narrated in an official and impersonal tone. She not only led the rumor spreading, but also instigated the anchor to come to my home. The intention was to make me look worse in my parents' eyes. As for the hosts at the wedding venue, there was a batch that Yolanda Sue had indeed requested. She wanted me to become the villain who ruined her wedding. She didn't expect it. I'm really dead. Father, hearing this, couldn't help but rush to the interrogation room, grab Yolanda Sue's collar, and shout angrily, red-faced, "Why are you being so malicious? She is your sister. Even if you don't like her, you should still remember the kindness of me and your mother towards you. You should not hurt Jane Sue so much." Mother sat on the ground, crying in despair. "We always thought it was the outsider's fault, but it turns out it was you. You're crazy." Yolanda Sue kept her head down, not daring to look her parents in the eye, her face full of confusion, but showing no sign of guilt. I'm just worried that my sister will take everything from me. Dad, Mom, I didn't expect it to be this way, really. I only wanted to make her feel the pain of rumors. I really didn't expect her to commit suicide. She was too fragile. Yes, she is too fragile. She is still ill. It's not my fault. She screamed these words hysterically, her eyes revealing madness and obsession. Dad, Mom, even without our sister, we are still a loving family, aren't we? Dad was shaking with rage, raised his hand, and slapped Yolanda Sue, roaring. How can you be so selfish and cruel? We never realized you were this kind of person. There was only remorse in my father's eyes. Yolanda Sue saw this gaze and collapsed even more, covering her face with both hands, a hint of resentment flashing in her eyes. You were the one who told them to bring back the little cutie. The day when she is here, I will have to repeatedly remember that I am not a member of the Sue family. I am the only daughter of the Sue family, the only princess. It's all her fault. Why didn't she die sooner? She should have died the year she was abducted. To die in that airtight Great Mountain. Mother was inconsolable, desperately collapsed on the ground, muttering to herself. What on earth happened? Why did it turn out this way? I see the once warm and cozy family now torn apart and on the brink of conflict. It feels as if the darkness is spreading through this home. It devours the souls of everyone, turning what was once love and warmth into nothingness. The spirit body feels more transparent. I'm leaving for real this time. Yolanda Sue and Yufeng's wedding was cancelled. Yufeng was speechless when she visited the detention center. Yolanda Sue, you are too foolish to have done something like this. Yolanda Sue grasped the railing and smiled bitterly. Yes, I have a loving family and partner, so why am I being so foolish? It's all Jane Sue's fault. I really hate her. Yufeng heard this and was somewhat at a loss for words. He frowned and said, Yolanda, at this point, are you still blaming your sister? Haven't you reflected on your own actions? Your sister committed suicide because of you, but no one forced you to commit such a wrongdoing. Yolanda opened her eyes wide and exclaimed with emotion. If Jane Sue didn't come back, I wouldn't have ended up where I am today. It's all her. It's all her who ruined everything for me. Yufeng sighed and shook his head helplessly. Yolanda Sue, wake up. Having said that, he turned and left the detention center, leaving Yolanda Sue behind to sob uncontrollably. I saw her unrepentant expression and shook my head helplessly. She hides behind the screen, recklessly typing on the keyboard, venting her malice without any concern, without considering the harm caused to others. Whether for me or for others, she will face criminal punishment along with the other netizens involved in this matter. She pleaded with her parents through tears, but they wouldn't even look at her. We cannot help Jane Sue forgive you. You are responsible for your own actions. My parents held a solemn and grand farewell ceremony for me. Many strangers have come forward spontaneously to present me with colorful bouquets, so beautiful. I drift beside the bouquet, lightly sniffing the flowers, and also see a card. Sister is a flower that has sprung from the earth under the scorching sun, vigorous and flourishing. The illustration shows a young female cartoon character with mint-colored wavy hair, holding a college admission letter and laughing joyfully. I really like it. I wish I could pick it up and kiss it a few times. Alas, I am dead and can no longer touch anything. Big brother, big sister, grieve in moderation. A voice came. I saw a group of parents holding missing person notices. I recognized the leader at a glance. He was the one who found me in the mountains. He rushed forward and hugged his father and mother, tears welling up in his eyes. You went through so much trouble back then just to find Jane Sue. Whenever I arrive at an unfamiliar place, I post missing person notices everywhere, even if my fingers are frozen stiff from the glue, without ever stopping. Shivering in the cold wind, yet still full of hope and not missing any possible clues. How many pairs of shoes have I worn out? How many high mountains have I crossed to find her? You once loved me so much, you would have gone over mountains and rivers to find me. She gave me up for a Yolanda Sue. She doesn't love me. Why? Because I left them 7 years ago. Just because I'm already different from what they imagined. It's a pity that Jane Sue is not fortunate. You've worked hard. No, it's not that Jane Sue is unlucky. It's that we didn't take good care of her. Dad was distraught, his eyes full of shame. My mother was too afraid to even look at my memorial photo and body. I coldly looked at them, and my heart didn't seem to hurt as much. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I no longer need their regret. My parents buried me in the best cemetery in the city. All the relatives and friends have finished paying respects and left. Only they still kneel before my grave. The ghostly friends around me are quite gossipy, leaning over to ask me, "Is this your parents? I feel sorry for you. Have you been kneeling for so long? My knees are bleeding." I looked at him coldly and said, "They are my parents. They did not love me when I was alive, but now that I am dead, they love me." My ghost friends, upon hearing this, all came over to pat me on the shoulder, and some even said, "Remember, you're loved." I gave a slight smile and said nothing more. I am very greedy. I want not only their delayed love. They knelt the entire night, until late at night. Finally, the knees moved slightly, and then a bottle of paraquat was taken out of the bag. They stared into each other's eyes deeply, as if they had made some decision, and each drank half a bottle. When the gravedigger discovered it the next day, they knelt motionless in front of my grave, their bodies already stiff, and I, face to face with those who have become spiritual entities. When my parents saw me, their eyes were full of surprise and joy, wanting to rush over and embrace me. I cleverly avoided with a cold face, "There's no need for you to do this. Jane Sue, can you forgive your parents' ignorance? It's all our fault if we had discovered it earlier." They were hesitating and prevaricating, but I sharply interrupted them. "No more ifs. When you hurt me and forced me out to get Yolanda Sue, my heart died. I have longed for paternal and maternal love for so long. It should not be like this. You've had a hard time finding me, but have you ever thought that I'm having a hard time too? It's painful. Why didn't you get rid of me earlier? Just when I was 7 years old and could remember things. If I were muddled and spent my whole life in the mountains, I might live better than I do now." My foster parents did not raise me well. They abuse and bully me every day. In the freezing winter, I have to sleep with the pigs and eat spoiled, cold leftovers. I have always been convinced that you would find me. But you found me, yet no longer love me. Now, even if you die, you cannot make up for the harm you have caused me. The sky shot down a dazzling beam of golden light. My friend next to me got excited and said, "Little sister, you can be reincarnated now. Hurry up, hurry up. Your spiritual body has become transparent. It's time to go. If you miss it, you'll have to wait another year." My parents, upon hearing this, did not want me to leave. They came forward and grabbed my legs, pleading with me. "Jane Sue, don't go. Please don't go. Let me spend a bit more time with Dad and Mom. Let's take a good look at you." I gritted my teeth and looked back at them. "Let me go. I want to go. I want to find my loving parents." The ghosts saw what was happening and immediately came forward to help. They pulled apart their hands and said, "Quickly, sister, let's go." I gave them a grateful look, my gaze unwavering, drifting towards that beam of light. Next life, I will have a loving family, a thriving and prosperous life.